Welcome to At Issue. My name is H. Wayne Wilson, and I thank you so much for joining us for another half-hour discussion, this time about zoos in central Illinois, specifically the Miller Park Zoo and the Peoria Zoo. And you've probably taken kids to the zoo at some point in your life, or you've enjoyed the animals at the Africa exhibit at the Peoria Zoo, what have you. But today we're going to talk about the most important aspect of zoos, and that is preserving those endangered species who have struggled to remain in the wild. We're going to talk about that issue with Dawn Peatfish. Dawn is the curator of collections at the Peoria Zoo, which is located at Glen Oak Park in Peoria.
That's correct.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And also with us is the director of the Miller Park Zoo. His name is Jay Tetzloff. We thank you for joining us as well.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about and show you some video of a few different animals that are endangered or vulnerable, etc. But we probably ought to define what those categories are. I think for me, an animal's just endangered. And then I started reading about vulnerable. What are the categories?
Well, if you think about, there's extinct, that means there's none left anywhere. Museums, preserved museums. Then you get to extinct in the wild, and we're going to talk about one of those species today. It's there's none in the wild. They're only found in zoos or private breeders or in private hands, but there's zero in the wild of where they're from. Then you get down to critically endangered. Again, it's the different levels of how soon will they be extinct, what's their numbers, and it's all based on their biology and what's going on in their native area. So critically endangered, and then we get to endangered, but again, we're just coming down that ladder.
And then vulnerable would be the least at risk of all those categories.
Of those categories, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned at the outset that zoos, in my estimation, correct me if I'm wrong, the primary purpose really is to preserve animals. It's not a showcase.
No, it's about, for us, it's about creating connections and inspiring action in people. And so I feel like one of the things that is really important that we get across these conservation stories and get these messages out. At the same time, definitely we may breed to have assurance populations in zoological institutions, but if we don't get people to take action, we aren't going to be able to save them. So I really feel like that is our primary purpose, is to inspire action.
And that action really is a collaborative effort, because you as an individual zoo can't have much impact, but if you work with other zoos, if you work with departments of natural resources, if you work with other organizations, the Nature Conservancy, etc. How does that overarching combination of organizations work?
It really depends on the groups you're working with and what species you're working with. If you're working with a local, so a species here in Illinois, it's maybe a little easier. But if you're working in Panama, you may not speak the same language. That becomes a barrier at some point. But understanding who's on the ground, who's already doing that work, if you're the one starting it, then there's all those different challenges. But if you're just trying to join in and help other organizations of what they're doing, it's much easier. Just say, how can I help? That's the easy part. But if you're starting from the ground level, you've got to find all these partners, because you're right, you cannot do it. One facility, one government, one organization cannot do this by themselves. It takes lots of groups to make it work.
So it helps, and this isn't surprising, there is an organization called the American Zoo Association.
Correct.
So how do you go about deciding the Peoria Zoo gets this endangered or vulnerable species, the Miller Park Zoo gets this one, maybe you don't get that one even though you thought you would like to have that?
It takes years and years of planning. Peoria Zoo, and I'm sure Miller Park Zoo and all the other zoos in Association of Zoos and Aquarium have collection plans. And so I knew what species we were going to have in Africa 10 years before we built Africa. I mean, this takes a lot of planning and a lot of forethought. So not only do you have to have, if you want to exhibit animals in a more naturalistic habitat, you want to exhibit them in a mixed species exhibit. So the first hurdle is having two species that are going to be able to occupy the same space. And all that is contained in that challenge. In Africa, we have an additional challenge. We have predators across the way. And so all of those things needed to be thought through. And when you plan your collection plan, you decide exactly what species you're going to acquire by consulting with the AZA and species managers. You have taxon advisory groups that actually look at genetic populations and decide where can we make the most difference as a collective unit. Because at my zoo, you wouldn't look at maybe the only 3 spider monkeys we have and make breeding recommendations, but you might look at 400 spider monkeys that are in North America and make better breeding recommendations to maintain that diversity.
So with that in mind, Jay, sometimes do you trade or you share or do you loan animals to make sure you have genetic diversity?
Absolutely. So the breeding programs that are out there, the species survival plans, they look at the entire population. They want to know who's related to who and make those recommendations. How that animal goes from point A to point B, it could be sold, which is pretty rare these days. It's most likely loaned or donated. If an animal's born, if a snow leopard's born in my place and leaves, it's probably never going to come back. So if it's donated to that zoo where it's going, it's just a matter of paperwork at that part. We're doing what's best for the population, not focusing on 1 animal or 2 animals. We're looking at the entire population of North America and some populations of the entire world's populations.
And if we decide to exhibit these species, we sign off that says we will abide by these breeding recommendations. Because again, if we aren't all in it, if we don't all believe that this is the course and we make the necessary, then we won't be able to make an impact.
Let's talk about some of the animals, because each zoo has about 25 either vulnerable, endangered, or extinct in the wild species. Each one of them has that many. So let's talk about a few of those, and I'd like to talk, first let's talk about the red wolf. The red wolf is a U.S., or was a U.S. Animal. It was in the southeastern portion of the United States. What's its status right now?
So right now it's a critically endangered species. In the 70s, red wolves were almost extinct. They caught every single pure red wolf they could find, less than 20, brought them into U.S. zoos, and we slowly have introduced them back into the wild. So at one point they were extinct in the wild. So in 1980 there were no red wolves found in anywhere in the world, in the wild, 0. And over time we've been able to establish them back into, they're in North Carolina now, and are having their own struggles right now with even North Carolina. So this is an apex predator in the U.S. So we're going to talk a little bit more about other species that are in third world countries. This is an animal that's here in our country that is struggling to survive.
One of the things I found interesting in looking at the red wolf was that loss of habitat, etc. We know the reasons why many of these species are dwindling in population. Loss of habitat, illegal trade, humans killing them. But in this particular case, one of the reasons was hybridization with coyotes.
Right. There's that strong urge to reproduce for lots of animals, and in absence of finding another red wolf, you might find a coyote. And from a genetic standpoint, from a biology standpoint, they are able to hybridize. So that's one concern in North Carolina with the wild red wolf right now, is they'll hybridize with coyotes so much there'll be 0 pure red wolves again.
Over at the Peoria Zoo, you have what's called the alligator snapping turtle. And when you take a look at this in a moment, you'll see why we call it the alligator snapping turtle. Very similar to an alligator, very ancient looking
Yes, very prehistoric looking.
But it's still around. But how critical is it?
Very critical. We know that there were many of them in Illinois back in the 80s. The last wild alligator snapping turtle that was seen in Illinois was in 1984. And so I was approached by an officer at DNR who wanted to start up a recovery program for alligator snapping turtles in Illinois. And we really jumped at the chance, because for us, there isn't anything that's better than having that animal that you care for in captivity and actually seeing it go back to the wild. And we've been lucky enough to have that happen. This is our 4th year now that we're releasing alligator snapping turtles into the wild.
When you release a species like the snapping turtle, or specifically the alligator snapping turtle, how do you know that you've found the right environment for it?
There's a lot of study that's done before we ever release them. DNR has a kind of a very specific recovery plan, and so we will only release these animals to the right environment. But really, the only way we know that we're successful in this will be when these animals start breeding and recruiting other animals. So we've got kind of a long road ahead of us. Probably at 2021, we'll reevaluate. These animals don't reach sexual maturity until they're at least 11 years old. And so we won't know for sure if this program has been successful until they start reproducing and recruiting other alligator snapping turtles.
So a lot of follow-up monitoring of these animals. Let's turn back to Jay and talk about an animal that calls Central and South Asia home, and that's the snow leopard. It's a gorgeous animal. What's its status?
So it's an endangered species. The high side says there's about 7,000 left. Most reports I read say about 4,000 left. These found, if you think about the Himalayan mountains, that's where these guys are from. High altitude, very steep cliffs. Their very long tail is used for the balance when they're going up and down cliffs. And if they're not, they use it as a scarf when it gets down cold at night. So it's a beautiful, beautiful white and gray cat.
They use the tail to stay warm.
Yes. It's longer than their body.
Over at the Peoria Zoo, the Cottontop Tamarin.
Yes.
This is a critically endangered animal, but gorgeous.
Absolutely beautiful. We call it the punk rock monkey. It has a poof of white hair.
The punk rock monkey.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. And this hairstyle that they have, this poof of white hair, is very specific to each individual tamarin, and so you can actually identify the Cottontop tamarins by this poof on their head. The reason I love to talk about this species is because in 2007 they came up with Dr. Ann Savage developed a program called Project TD, and she's working with the native people in Colombia to educate them about this very special monkey that only lives in Colombia. And so they didn't even realize that it was special. They didn't realize they were the only ones that had it.
And as we mentioned before, habitat destruction is one cause, illegal trade, but in this particular case, there was actually scientific research done on the tamarins, so they were bringing these tamarins from Colombia up to America to do scientific research, and then of course the animal was destroyed after that.
Right.
That has been banned? Absolutely,
that was banned many years ago, and so right now the problem is the people who live where the home range for the Cottontop tamarins is, there's a lot of poverty, and so for a long time they would go into the forest and grab these monkeys, sell them to the pet trade so they can have a little bit of money. So what Dr. Savage's program has done is kind of impacted local economy. She's brought in people to teach them to, the children build stoves that use less fuel, so less trees have to be cut down, and she's brought in seamstresses to teach them how to sew stuffed Cottontop tamarins. And there's a children's book, and I mean, she's just done an amazing job. And where years ago they couldn't tell you anything about these monkeys, now they're proud that this is only found in their area. There's festivals that surround the Cottontop tamarin.
That is an important point that we should discuss further, in that many of these nations, they don't have preservation rules, they don't have preserves to maintain these animals, and people will sell them, they'll capture them for money. Is there an effort in these third world countries to, maybe it's through WAZA, the World Zoo Association, is there an effort to try to do more of this education?
Oh, education is a big part of it. You've got to get the local people interested in wanting, just like we just talked about with Cottontops. For snow leopards, one of the causes of habitat loss is agriculture. So goats and cattle are moving into where snow leopards were, and every so often will come down and poach. A snow leopard will come down and grab a domesticated animal. Well, the ranchers want to retaliate against that snow leopard. So there's that give and take. You have to understand that that's loss of revenue or resources for the villager, but while at the same time, you've got to worry about having a species go extinct. So it's that fine balance, and it takes a lot of time in figuring out what each area, every area in the world's different. What's a driver? What can we do? The Snow Leopard Trust is a nonprofit organization that's working in Central Asia, and they are actually selling goods that's sold from the Central Asia region. And like we sell things in our gift shop and zoos other for products from that area, and they pay them for their goods, so it's a way to make money for them. They also give them rewards. So if a rancher has a goat killed by a snow leopard and he doesn't retaliate, an animal's not poached, then they get a bonus. If there's an animal that's poached, if a snow leopard's poached, they don't get that reward, that bonus. So there's ways to make it to make sense on their part, because it's their way of life. In some cultures, that's part of the way they live. So we got to find that balance to make sure it works.
One of the animals that kids always like to see is the tiger, but there are a lot of different species and subspecies. Some of them are already extinct. The Bali tiger is extinct. The Javan tiger is extinct. The Sumatran tiger is critically endangered. You have one of them, and you have a tiger also, but there's a difference in the size.
Yes, we have the largest tiger, so Amur tiger or a Siberian tiger. We have two of them.
And you have the Sumatran?
Sumatran, so they're the brightest orange and red color, and they're also the smallest. So Sumatrans are around 300 pounds. Amur tigers can get 600 pounds. So, and difference where they live. Ours are tropical, theirs are cold weather, temperate cats. So all of Asia is covered with tigers in theory in their native ranges. They used to be all over Asia, now they're shrinking.
Let's talk about something a bit smaller, the golden frog.
Yes.
Are there any left in the wild?
The last one that was seen was in 2009. So there was a chytrid fungus, pretty much wiped out the wild populations.
So it is entirely up to zoos to preserve this particular species?
Absolutely, and scientists predicted that this would happen, so luckily my zoo and Jay's zoo, we were already working with SSP to kind of manage the captive population and maintain genetic diversity within the zoos. And
so both of you have golden frogs?
Correct.
It's kind of unique in that it has a toxin on its skin.
Yeah, you know, these are much like poison arrow frogs. These were hunted at one point or used for putting a poison on a dart for natives of that area. But yeah, this species is completely extinct. Last I heard, there was 3,000 to 4,000 in U.S. zoos ready to go back into Panama, but there's no place to put them. Chytrid has taken over. There's no safe place to release the frogs right now.
So until you find a way to control that fungus, they're going to remain in zoos.
It's a really sad story because the golden frog is a cultural symbol of Panama. They believe, local legend says that if you see a golden frog in the wild, you will have good luck. And so in a way, they've lost their luck. You know, you see them all over. They're on T-shirts. They're on in the market. They're even on lottery tickets. But yeah, you won't see them in the wild right now.
And it's funny that it's a fungus that's killing them because they're golden. Yeah. I mean, they're not hiding.
No.
Right.
But of course, they don't taste good. So,
right.
But another one that can't really hide really well, at least in my estimation, is the spotted turtle.
Yeah.
Can you describe that? I mean, we're going to see the spotted turtle here in a minute.
But the spotted turtle is the smallest turtle, certainly the smallest turtle in Illinois, and they're endangered in Illinois, which is why we've taken a very close look at them. But they're dark, very small turtles with yellow spots. They call them the polka dot turtle. And they like cold water. So it's actually very rare that people get to see them in the wild because when it's a hot day where normally you'd see other turtles basking and they kind of be out in the open because they want to warm up, these guys like to be down in the cold water. And the theory, at least, the reason they have the polka dots is because it glimmers and looks like sunlight and people will just walk right by them.
And by the way, one of the reasons why it is endangered is that vehicle mortality is one of the major causes of the loss of those particular species. There's also now this isn't, I shouldn't use the word similar because turtles and tortoises are different, but the radiated tortoise. What can you tell us about that?
So it's a medium-sized tortoise from Madagascar. So that's an island just off of Africa. And as we were preparing for this, you always want to catch up and refresh your memory of and your facts of animals. And one of the things I came across was Radiated Tortoise will be extinct in 50 years in the wild. This is an animal that can live 200 years. So, and it's mostly, it's human. Habitat loss and the bushmeat. So people are eating the Radiated Tortoise, so down to possibly extinction.
They're predicting extinction, but hasn't it been introduced into Mauritius?
They're trying to spread out the range and hope that different locations might prove to be a better place for them. And there's good numbers in the U.S. and in other zoos, and in some cases private holders, private breeders. So I think there's a lot of potential for reintroduction of certain areas, but if the risks aren't removed, and it's us, that's humans, it's going to be really tough to release them back onto the islands.
We had mentioned bush meat is one of the problems for some of these species, and one of those is the ring-tailed lemur. It's an endangered species.
Absolutely.
You have it at the Peoria Zoo.
We do, we do.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
It's the most terrestrial lemur species that there is. It also lives in Madagascar. And there are about 60 different species of lemurs that live there. This one in particular, they're having a lot of problem because they spend a lot of time on the ground since they're terrestrial, and they're doing organized burns in their homeland because they're trying to free up agriculture space. So again, it's because they're coming into conflict because the people who live there need to make their money, and they make their money ranching, and that competes with that same space that the ring-tailed lemur competes with.
So in all of these cases, it's a very complex problem which requires a complex solution.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about, in the few minutes we have remaining, the breeding programs. There is a captive breeding program that exists for, I assume, for all of these species.
For most of these. Some that are smaller, may not be nationwide or not a very popular or common zoo animal. They might just be kind of a local program. Alligator snapping turtle is a great example of that. But if it's a common animal in zoos, many of them have captive breeding programs. Yeah.
Do you have to be careful when, and we were talking about reintroducing these into the wild, especially those that are critically endangered. Do you have to be careful that you don't expose them to human exposure? But I mean, you don't want to feed them on a regular basis, et cetera. You don't want the vet to come in on a regular basis, et cetera. Is that one of the problems that you have? It
certainly can be. Each animal, there's animal, like the snow leopards that are in the U.S., the chances of them being released back into the wild is pretty low chances. Red wolves, on the other hand, very well could be released. In fact, there are rules set aside by the breeding program plus the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service of not, like you said, not feeding on a regular basis. We don't train them like we train other animals. We're not giving them cues of any kind. We're just trying to make sure that they could exist in the wild to the best of our ability. They're still going to see people. They're still going to hear cars or see cars go by. They're still going to hear dogs going by or whatever, because we're in the middle of the city. But you do what you can to limit. And when a red wolf is released, a lot of times they'll go into a larger pen in North Carolina.
I want to finish with a brief discussion about giraffes, and the reason I saved it for last was there's almost 100,000 giraffes left in the world.
Yes.
So why on earth is it listed as vulnerable?
So IUCN actually goes out and does surveys, and that's where they come up with these population estimations. And at its last estimate, it drastically, I think it dropped by 40%. The population numbers dropped by 40%. And so even though it's listed as vulnerable, it's moved up 2 levels, if you will, as far as that status is required. And so we know now that it's something that we really need to look at. AZA facilities have kind of joined together, and they've set up a SAFE program, which stands for Saving Animals from Extinction. And the whole purpose behind this program is to kind of cooperatively discuss conservation strategies, but also really make a collective public impact. And so all of us, AZA facilities, 230 of us, will social media blast at the same time, so that we can all get the same message across at the same time, which again, is really powerful when you can reach out to all of our visitors.
And with that, we're out of time. We hope that the next time you visit a zoo that you understand better what's behind the operation of the Peoria Zoo and the Miller Park Zoo. We thank Dawn Peatfish, who is the Curator of Collections at the Peoria Zoo at Glen Oak Park. Thank you for being with us. And as well, Jay Tetzloff, who is the Director of Miller Park Zoo in Bloomington. Thank you both for being with us on that issue. On the next edition of our program, we're going to be visiting with the leaders of small communities that are finding it difficult to find volunteers. Service clubs are closing down because of lack of volunteers, and special events are shutting down because of that same reason. We'll find out how we might correct that trend on the next At Issue.